Kick it!
Welcome to Best Picture This, where it is always Oscar season. I'm Mike.
And I'm Brian. In this show, we reevaluate every Best Picture nominee from the 21st century and decide whether to keep it or kick it from its Oscar pedestal.
I'm listening to your voice right now, Brian, and I just want to smash it with a sledgehammer because we are not keeping or kicking a movie today. We're branching off from the 5 nominees to focus on another big release from 2002. But first, a refresher on what those nominees were. In 2002, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, The Hours, Gangs of New York, The Pianist, and Chicago were nominated for Best Picture. But we're talking about a movie that was nominated for and won exactly 0 Oscars.
So that means it's not a very good movie, right?
We'll see about that, Brian. The movie is Punch Drunk Love, directed by none other than Paul Thomas Anderson. Here's the trailer.
I wanted to ask you something because you're a doctor, right?
Yeah.
I don't like myself sometimes. Can you help me?
Barry, I'm a dentist.
Hi, this is Georgia.
This is Barry Egan.
So what do you do, Barry?
I have my own business. We have a non-breakable handle. Let me demonstrate for you.
You're married, aren't you?
No.
Barry, that's your sister.
There's this friend of mine from work, and I want you to meet her. This is Lena.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No.
It must be weird for you to have so many sisters.
Actually, no. It's very nice.
All right. Remember we used to call you gay boy and get all mad?
What's that?
We were calling you gay boy and you got so mad. I saw your picture and I really wanted to meet you.
What are you lying?
I didn't want to get too far along going out and be hiding something.
This is Barry.
Hey, it's Georgia.
How did you get this number?
I was wondering if maybe you could help me out with some money.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry.
You've just made a war for yourself that you can't afford.
I'm going to Hawaii on Friday.
Hawaii? I was thinking about going there.
Really?
I'm gonna start a collection of puddings and coupons that can be redeemed for frequent flyer miles.
That's insane.
This is Barry.
You canceled your credit card.
That's a bunch of bull! Get your supervisor on the phone!
Yeah.
What's your name, sir? You're sick.
No.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Are you threatening me?
Yes.
That wasn't good! You're dead! Ow!
And all at once I knew at once I knew it didn't me.
I have so much strength in me, you have no idea.
The day I died, I don't know why I knew it didn't me.
I have a love in my life. It makes me stronger than anything you can imagine.
He needs me, 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 he needs me.
Brian, could we just address the fact that everybody says throughout this movie that this pudding scheme is insane, and it's actually genius.
It is. It was based on a real guy who did do the same scheme. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool.
So you're correct, Mike, that this movie got no Oscar attention, but Adam Sandler was nominated for Best Actor in Golden Globes for a comedy or musical. So I thought that was indicative that some people took this movie pretty seriously. Paul Thomas Anderson also he won Best Director at the Cannes Film Festival. So that's pretty artsy and prestigious. The movie cost $25 million to make. And did you catch how much it made in its
No,
in your research?
I didn't look it up for this one. How much?
It cost 25 and it made 24.7.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty good for an artsy movie, right? You
Yeah.
only lost like $0.3 million. That's nothing.
Yeah, if you don't lose the studio money, you're going to get a chance to make another one. So I think Paul Thomas Anderson did just what he needed to do to get this through.
Audiences polled by Cinema Score gave the film an average grade of D+, which is a travesty.
Yeah, but it does well on the Rotten Tomatoes audience score and on the Metacritic. Yeah, that was, I think, about 77, 76, something like that.
Huh. I wonder why the D+ then. That's strange. So coming up in the show, we'll do our Farley Awards. for the most awesome moment in the movie, which is a great tribute to doing the Farley Awards during an Adam Sandler movie. We'll do our golden takes. We'll each ask each other one question designed to put the duct tape of truth on the broken harmonium of life. We will imagine what might have been. We'll talk trivia, and then we will defend whether we believe this is in our short list for our top 5 movies of the year that we'll eventually reveal in the 2002 finale episode.
That's right. But first, our Farley Awards for the most awesome moment of the movie. And for me, it's when we meet Barry's sister, and she brings his eventual love interest, Lena, played by Emily Watson, to his office. So we see early on that Barry, Adam Sandler, is anxious, socially awkward, probably has OCD. And as more characters are introduced, we not only start to understand why he's like that, but we also we really feel a lot of it through PTA's style here. You know, he shoots most of these early scenes in long takes, scored by this really percussive, chaotic music, you know, constant interruptions, phone calls from Barry's 7 sisters, who all sort of bully him to make sure he's coming to this family gathering later that night. But Paul Thomas Anderson takes that style even further once we meet his sister, who actually shows up in person to his office, and she's trying to sort of set him up with Lena. So let's listen to a clip and notice how PTA keeps diverting attention here. You know, at one point, a forklift even crashes into shelving in the background, and Adam Sandler just tries to blow right through it and ignore it, completely clueless, you know, how to play it cool. You know, he just kind of tries to keep making conversation. So the clip starts right after that crash with Barry talking to Lena, and then his sister shows up a little later. Let's hear it.
I think actually the clip happens a little bit later into it. But anyway, it's about 1 minute and 5 seconds. So here we go.
You do what she does, the same job, the same work?
I do. But I do mainly field consultations too, which is cool because I get to travel. I'm going to Hawaii on Friday.
Hawaii? I was thinking about going there.
Really?
I was thinking about going there on business.
Well, if you're going to go...
I'm probably not going to go, though.
Oh, that's too bad because it's so great over there, and if you were there, we could say hello to each other or something.
Yes, that would be great, but I'm not exactly sure. I have so much going on here. A lot depends on this thing. If it happens, I won't be able to go, but if it doesn't happen, I might be able to. I probably won't, though.
I can't find the thing in my car. I can't find it, but I can get it and give it to you later. So, are you gonna come eat with us?
Yeah, I can.
Well, oh my God!
It was great to meet you again, to see you again, and thanks for helping me
What's
yesterday.
that piano? What is this pudding?
I don't know.
Why are they here?
You ready?
I have no idea.
Call me later and we can talk about asking Walter for the shrink, and he said you have this crying problem or something?
Bye, Barry.
Call me later.
Everything he does in this movie is first a lie, it feels like, because he's trying to hide his anxiety so much. And it's really, it's so sad, but it's like, it's so hilarious at the same time.
It's like the only way that he knows to get by is to just deny anything real and just pretend like everything on the surface is going great. And then you have like all this crosstalk, you have all these questions. It just feels so confrontational and so challenging. And it establishes so much of the world of this movie, but also it establishes like his headspace, like you're saying, you know, how he sees the world, how he experiences it, feeling out of step and disconnected from everything around him. And just contrast that chaos, like the frenetic score, the manic camera, the 1,000 distractions, with the scene of him in bed with Lena in Hawaii later. You know, I referenced it at the top of the show where he tells her that, you know, she's so pretty that he wants to smash her face with a sledgehammer. And she sort of instigates that moment, you know, by saying, he's so cute, I want to chew your cheeks. And he just like goes way too far with it. But it works.
She kind of plays along with it at the same time.
Oh yeah,
when she's there, I'm
saying, it works because they work, and just the mood of that scene, how Anderson shoots it. You know, like we see them both in intense close up. The camera is still and steady, not moving like it is in this first sequence. The music is soft, beachy behind them, and it's lit in these silhouettes. You know, as opposed to like the bright fluorescence that we see in these early segments. I just love it. I think the style is so visceral, and you can clearly see that Paul Thomas Anderson is having fun doing this, and that kind of rubbed off on me while I was watching.
Absolutely. The silhouettes are fantastic in the movie, and there's so many like really mundane things that are turned into abstractions and made to look very strange, and you just realize that you're living in this world that of Adam Sandler's character, and it's just like you said, it puts you in the mind of this guy with a real mental health crisis that he's going through. So my Farley Award is when he goes to the party. So his sisters are begging him to go to the party. They're not begging him. They're basically bullying him, into going to the party. And he keeps telling him like, yeah, I'm going to be there. And then he's like, yeah, I might not make it, and you know, he's not wanting to go, but he does show up, which is a big victory for him. And what happens when he gets there? They start bullying him again. Not so insensitive. They just have no clue. And I love how right before he goes, he's, you see his job is so strange, selling these toilet plungers with supposedly unbreakable handles. Yeah. And just everything seems bizarre, the harmonium on the side of the road. So anyway, he gets to this party, he freaks out, and he kicks these glass doors and shatters them for no reason, it seems like. 3 of them right in a row. Yes. Boom, 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 boom. But the thing is, the editing, I thought, was so brilliant because it's a really quick switch to that scene that you saw in the trailer at the beginning. Like, this is right before that part where he's quietly asking his brother-in-law, can you help me? Mm-hmm. It's like he kicks each door, boom, boom, boom. And then you don't see the fallout. You don't see even the glass fall. You don't see their reactions or his reactions. You go immediately to a very quiet moment. Well, you do get some of their reactions. The room sort of erupts and they all are saying, what's wrong with you, Bear? And then it just ends kind of right in the middle of them of screaming. But that's all you need of the eruption. And then we go to that quiet moment. But it kind of makes you realize that he kind of shuts off at that moment. And I thought that the editing also reflected that. And he's asking he's asking his brother-in-law for a recommendation. So the empathy we have for him, I think, just swells to this bursting point. And then it cuts to the grocery store. And anyway, all these abstractions, and the mood of this movie is so unusual. But I think it really works perfectly well. You're right on point with this one. I mean, this was, I was considering this for my best moment, and it's just because of all the things that you're saying. Like, it has that surprising factor to it. It has that kind of funny, but also painful, where we do it's not making fun of him because we do empathize with the pain. We understand where he's coming from. But when he kicks those glass doors, I laughed out loud. It was an outburst. So what do you make of the watercolory abstractions throughout that are sprinkled in? I think it's because this might set us off on a tangent here, but I think it's because this movie is cosmic and mystical in a certain way. So you have this idea, or he shows up to work in this blue suit, and his sister asks him multiple times, "Why are you wearing that suit? This suit is weird. What's going on with the suit?" And he just keeps saying, "I don't know." When his coworker comes in, he says the same thing. "I'm wearing this suit today. I don't know why I bought this." And it's also the same day where he's meeting Lena. And it's almost like something in the universe compelled him to dress up for this moment. And I think that you have that same sort of feeling of abstraction, metaphor kind of taking over your life with the harmonium. We start this movie with a car crash that just happens and kind of wakes him up almost, where it's this loud, jarring moment. And then immediately following, a van screeches to a stop right in front of his office, drops a musical instrument out, and then drives away. And I think from that point on, we're supposed to be very aware of the fact that we're not in reality. This is like almost a supernatural movie in a way. Well, when I showed this to my teenage sons, the trailer, asking if they wanted to watch it, I was like, yeah, Adam Sandler movie, they'll probably be into this. And they watched the trailer and they're like, they thought it was so strange. And the trailer makes it seem like he has this superpower or something. And they didn't even want to watch it. I was kind of surprised.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that's
it got
why,
a D plus. It got a D plus.
Exactly. And I think that's why it didn't make a ton of money. I think that's why you don't hear a lot of people talking about it now, because especially at this time, Adam Sandler was, the post SNL guy. He was Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. So then to come into this right after The Wedding Singer and Little Nicky, where he's spinning his head around, I mean, it's a departure. It's a big deal.
This is actually what my golden take really is all about. So let's go into that. So my golden take is that this movie is strange, but it's easy to forget now how strange it actually was 19 years later. Because Paul Thomas Anderson just came off of Magnolia in 1999. And when he told people in interviews that he was next going to do an Adam Sandler movie, he was literally laughed at and everyone thought he was joking. Adam Sandler was this SNL alumnus. He did silly comedy. You can't really tell if it's like for kids. It's so juvenile, a lot of the humor. And but since this movie, Adam Sandler did Spanglish. Did you see Spanglish?
I did. Yep.
I really liked Spanglish. I know it wasn't, I don't know that it really, got a lot of critical love exactly, but
it's solid.
I thought it was quite good. And then he did Uncut Gems, which I recently watched because I wanted to kind of see him in another role like this.
And whoa. Let's not just pass right by Click. Click, very underrated movie. Brian.
Okay. But not exactly the same tone as Uncut Gems or Punch Drunk Love. I don't know that there is another movie that exists that quite has the tone of Punch Drunk Love, to be honest with you.
There's not.
But he won or was nominated for Best Actor in a ton of smaller awards for Uncut Gems, all kinds of newspaper awards, Chicago, LA, that kind of thing. A lot of people gave him wins or nominations for acting for Uncut Gems. That was just a year or two ago. And he didn't get an Oscar nomination then, but it kind of shows you what Paul Thomas Anderson saw in Adam Sandler, even back in the day, picking this comedian for a serious movie. And he actually turned out to be brilliant. And I sure hope that he does more of these kind of more serious movies. So anyway, that's my golden take. What is yours, Mike?
We're going to have a lot of crossover here because you're kind of focusing on Adam Sandler. I'm focusing on Paul Thomas Anderson and just how much of a departure this was for him. So he did start with a small movie. I don't know if you've seen Heart 8. It's a very
I have not
self-contained crime story. John C. Reilly stars. Gwyneth Paltrow is in it. Sam Jackson is in it, and Philip Seymour Hoffman makes an appearance. Also, Philip Baker Hall. The cast is really good, but it's just kind of this small, funny crime movie about fathers and sons in a way. And then right after that, he kind of establishes himself as this serious director of 3-hour ensemble cast epics, Boogie Nights, Magnolia. These are movies that are sprawling. They're about like connectivity and disease and downward spiral. And then Punch Drunk Love happens. And it's like filled with color and music. It's just so emotional. And like you say, Adam Sandler stars. And if you look in his filmography, I just don't think that this movie seems to make sense. But that's kind of what I love about it. And I think that this movie to this day is my favorite PTA film. So I found a Charlie Rose interview where Paul
we haven't talked about Charlie Rose in a while. He was like episode after episode for a while there. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
The guy. So Paul Thomas Anderson is on Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose is asking him a lot about this idea, like how did you get to work with Sandler? What's going on there? And Anderson pretty much said that after he was done filming Magnolia, he was editing the movie and he just felt so drained. He's like, I'm done with cancer. I'm done with sadness. I need to start doing something else. And he said during that whole process, he referred to Adam Sandler's movies as his chicken noodle soup. That's what he used to make himself feel better. And he said, I want to learn to do that. Whatever he's doing there that's making me feel better, I want to learn to do that. And he kind of, in a way, he sort of downplays, I think, the achievement of this movie, because he acts like it's this airy minor comedy. And I think it has some of that tone in it, but this is like a bravura filmmaking movie to me. I mean, it's like, this is a tour de force in a way. It's a different kind, but the style is so hot. And within that style, I mean, you have comedy, you have romance, you have pain, you have chaos, all all still within enough room to leave for these human moments. Like I think about that scene where he's on the sex hotline and he's in his apartment that's like super depressing, and he sits down at his dining room table and the camera pans over just to show an extra seat, just one other chair at this table, and it's empty. But then it's also filled with these whimsical moments, like when he goes to Hawaii and he's trying to find Lena and he calls her on the phone booth, and the minute she picks up the phone, the light inside of the phone booth turns on. And that's on top of like all the colors, and
there's like a parade going on in the background.
Yeah. There's just so much going on here. And I love that it's all loaded into this very tight 90-minute package. And I think that's why it's my favorite, honestly, because usually for you to feel like a movie is this full, it would have to be over 2 hours. And I love that this is like very purposefully not that. It's the opposite of that.
I thought you always preferred 3-hour movies.
Not always, apparently, Brian.
It's going to be really interesting I've seen this once before. I liked it even more this next time. I loved it the first time. I liked it even more watching it again, but I'll have to see how this compares on another rewatch in a few more years worth of movies when we do There Will Be Blood, because that was my introduction to PTA. And I immediately thought, this is not just like the best movie of the year, but this is like one of the best of the decade. I think a real true masterpiece. I have not seen a lot of his movies since then. So I'll be curious to kind of, explore his whole filmography, but
I felt the same because I haven't seen that. And I think since it came out, I think I've only seen it twice, once in the theater, once on DVD. So I am looking forward to revisiting it, but this one's going to be hard to beat, man. The tone, I love this movie.
The tone is very, is very, very bleak.
Yes.
That's the downside to it. And this one is so opposite. The other thing, just to add on to what Paul Thomas Anderson is doing here, that's so different, or that makes it go into such an art house kind of effect, is not just the camera work and the silhouettes and everything, but that music, this soundtrack is, it's just incredible. It's so strange. And if you had to pick one thing that elevates it, I think, to a higher level of greatness, I think that's what I was identifying, is that the strange music, drums, electronica, all these kind of things. And typically you do the scoring of the movie after the rough footage was shot, and the composer then takes the footage and creates the music. But in this case, it was done while it was happening. I'm not sure how to pronounce the guy's last name, John Bryan, Brion. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But he was making these compositions during the film, and Anderson would be creating these vocal tempos that he would envision while he was shooting, and he would kind of be like, sort of like, I am imagining he was sort of like doing a quasi beatbox kind of a thing, so that John Bryan could figure out what to do. And sometimes the music and what he was doing would inspire the pace of Adam Sandler's acting at the time. So it blends in so perfectly, and it's evident when you watch the movie that is what's going on.
Yes. I love that you found that, because I didn't know that going in, and it just makes complete total sense. But it's one of these things where you wonder, like, okay, this movie's out there, so it's going to turn some people off, and it's very much not a safe mainstream Oscar-y,
It's a D+. That's what it is.
But how in the world, even if you're going to say it's not going to be nominated for Best Picture because we're afraid of it because it's too different, how is it not nominated for Best Score? How is it not nominated for Best Director? That is crazy.
There's been plenty of movies that weren't in that category. I mean, Mulholland Drive was
cinematography, man. How is it not nominated for cinematography?
I don't know.
Do you want to get to questions? Because I'm getting very upset.
Well, it's a great lead in, because here's my question. I have 7 actors that I've identified as who I think are among the best at being angry on screen. Okay. I'm going to list off my 7. I didn't put them in order, but I want you to help put them in order. Okay.
Okay. I love it.
So I started because I thought that Philip Seymour Hoffman scene where he's like, shut. So brilliant. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie, and I wish he was on the screen even more, but, But Adam Sandler is so great at being angry and freaking out and getting mad at people. So convincing and so energizing. So those two, I was like, who else is that good at being super angry and, just like you're almost like get wide-eyed and kind of like want to sit back in your chair, like, don't get mad at me. Yeah. So here are the other ones that I thought of where I could think of scenes that they were this electric. Leonardo DiCaprio being super angry, I think is fantastic. Al Pacino, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jack Nicholson, and I know you're not as big a Tom Cruise fan as I am, but I think Tom Cruise getting really angry is also quite effective. So tell me, out of those 7, who do you think are maybe the best 2 or 3 at being angry on the screen?
Can I just point out a glaring oversight?
Okay, yeah.
Where's Joe Pesci?
I thought about adding Joe Pesci because you love Goodfellas more than I do, but I purposely
Pesci
left him
everything.
off.
Let's be clear. All right, so putting these in order. Is Adam Sandler included in this?
I had Philip Seymour Hoffman and Adam Sandler as my first 2 on the list out of 7 people. Yeah, but
okay,
you could trump all of them and say Joe Pesci is better than everyone if you want.
Oh God, I would definitely put Joe Pesci at the top. I'm thinking about Jack Nicholson in The Shining. I feel like you have to have him up there. I do love DiCaprio in pretty much everything. I'm thinking about him really angry in The Departed toward the end when he's kind of realizing what's happening and that his identity is kind of slipping away. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be in the same caliber as the Jack Nicholson, Joe Pesci arena for me. I will put Nicholson at the top, and then I will go Adam Sandler.
Better than Joe Pesci?
Oh gosh, because I'm thinking about so much. A big part of Adam Sandler's comedic sensibility is waiting for him to yell. I'm thinking,
I know.
The entire movie is about him yelling. And what? Because I'm prop up Punch Drunk Love here. I'm changing this. Adam Sandler, number 1. There's no doubt about it. Everybody should see this if they like Adam Sandler angry. Number 2, Jack Nicholson. Number 3, Joe Pesci. Number 4. Then I'll go Leo. Number 5, I guess I'll go Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't think that he really has done enough. I wish his catalog was bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom Cruise, I guess. Did I miss one?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, Daniel.
So
Day-Lewis.
think of him in not all of his movies are angry, of course, but no. I'm thinking of There Will Be Blood, when he's like telling his imposter brother. Anyway, that was a scene that came to me, and at the end of There Will Be Blood with Paul Dano.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a good one though. I like a good ranking, so I feel like that's always a worthwhile game.
I think that Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jack Nicholson are probably the most intimidating in their angry scenes.
Yes, Philip Seymour Hoffman always had an intensity where you felt like he was about to boil over. I kind of feel like that was his like secret sauce almost. Where even when he was calm, you got the impression that he was holding something back, and you didn't want to push him too far.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Daniel Day-Lewis also in a lot of scenes. So, what's your question you have for me?
Felicia Feaster of Creative Loafing wrote in her review of the film, "There's very little to hold on to in this lackluster, uninspiring film with the disappointing inertness of a deflated balloon." So I disagree with every word of that sentence. But talking to my cousin last week, I mentioned that I watched Punch Drunk Love for the show, and he went off about how boring it was.
What?
So I get it. I get that this is a polarizing film.
Apparently.
But I think it's important to ask why. And so I started thinking about that, and I'm starting to go through some stuff. We talked a little bit about the beginning before and that car crash and the harmonium that's left on the curb. And to me, those things set a tone. The crash jolts him awake in a way, and the harmonium sort of sets him on like a poetic journey of self or something. So I guess I want to know if you think that the success or the failure of this movie depends on people buying into that magic, what I see as magic early on, or do we have to care about the mystery of the harmonium and who dropped it off, what it means in order to care about the love story.
Well, Haley is my wife's name, and she often
Such an awkward way to say that.
no, that's how I always introduce her. Haley is my wife when she's standing next to me. No. So she gets pretty annoyed by movies that don't resolve things.
Okay.
So like I watched a movie recently called Birth 2004. I mentioned it to you because I was a big fan of it. I'd never heard or known much about it before that. I think it was kind of under the radar Nicole Kidman movie, but I knew she would hate the movie because the love story is very unresolved at the end. And you know, that's like a deal breaker for a lot of people. So I think in this movie, there are tons of things that are kind of unresolved. Like, is he really supposed to get away with the pudding, or, you know, how exactly does that work out? Why the harmonium?
It's just a win for him. That's all. He's getting one over on society that has excluded him for, you know, his whole life.
Like, what is his relationship, you know, with his sisters? You know, is anything resolved there? Does he really get, you know, does Philip Seymour Hoffman really just like say, okay, I'm backing off? So I don't know. Maybe there's just too many unresolved questions for people in the movie.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know. I think that it's sort of the opposite in a way. I think that if you care too much about the logistics, you're not going to like this movie. You know, if you're wondering about who dropped that harmonium and why, then I think you're more likely to be disappointed, because this movie is not about reality. You know, to me, that's kind of the point about the beginning, is establishing that it's kind of just a wave of emotion. And if you're able to kind of let go, then you get carried in that current. If you're not able to let go, then you're going to get tripped up on plot and where it's going and why. And to me, that's just, that wasn't in my mind at all. I was just like smiling throughout this entire movie.
I know it wasn't for me either. Which, by the way, is that Gino, our mascot, who's barking?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, you should just invite him on.
Oh God, no!
You know?
I don't want the dog in here,
because
I don't want the dog in my house, let alone in this room. But one more thing about sort of the mystical mystery of this movie. When he calls Philip Seymour Hoffman the mattress man, you know, he calls him up on the phone and he's angry and he's basically, he's trying to tell him off and find out why he's, you know, sending these guys to torture him. Then Philip Seymour Hoffman says, "Are you threatening me? That's not good." Adam Sandler runs out of his office holding the telephone receiver in his hand. He doesn't let go of the telephone receiver. He runs. So the wire comes out of the wall. He runs to the airport. When he arrives in Idaho or Iowa, wherever this office is, he's still holding the phone receiver. So great. Like, you know, that just goes to show you, like, the trip would only slow things down in this plot. You know, if you want to go from California to Idaho, all you need to do is change scenes, and you're still there holding the same receiver you were in the scene before. And yet, that's another thing that really stood out to me, is you have a lot of scenes where he is like, you follow Adam Sandler as he's running down like an entire corridor. Seconds pass, and he's still going down, receding to be small at the end of the corridor. And yet he'll switch states without hardly any, like it's a quick cut from one state to another. Yeah. And we're seeing it for 10 seconds down a hallway, which it's part of like we're in the mind of this guy. Like, that is like, there's something stressful about just going down the hallway. Maybe, I don't know, but I thought that it added to the strangeness, which again is something that I look for in a movie. What might have been strangeness. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. That's all right. What might have been. So tell me yes or no on a couple things here. Paul Thomas Anderson went to NYU's film program, but after 2 days, he asked for his tuition back and started making his own short film. So should he have stayed in film school, or was that a good decision? I mean, it was a good decision. It worked out for him. Sean Penn. When I brought up Sean Penn in the past, you seemed down on Sean Penn. I like him. I think he's a little much, but I like him. Well, he was originally going to play Dean Trumbull, but had to drop out, so they gave it to Philip Seymour Hoffman. Interesting. Yeah, he would have done well, but I like Hoffman better.
I like the intimidation of that like mobster
Yeah.
situation. He's a great role. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Number 3, working titles included Punch Drunk Knuckle Love.
Horrible.
Too much.
Hate it.
Just Desserts.
No. It's the worst.
I thought that was hilarious. And then the X4 Project. I don't even know what that means. Punch Drunk Knuckle Love. Nah, too much.
That's bad.
But a lot of assonance. The. John C. Reilly was originally going to play one of the men who came to Utah. It was Utah, apparently, not Idaho.
Okay.
To collect the money. But Riley thought that it was a strange role for him, considering how people would recognize him and wonder why he wasn't doing more. So he dropped out. Thought that was kind of interesting explanation. But then he did appear in Anger Management alongside Luis Guzman.
I mean, I could see him in Sandler's role playing Barry.
He really could have been. That's a good point. Number 5, Adam Sandler. This is not related to Punch Drunk Love, but he was originally set to play the taxi driver in Collateral, 2004, opposite Tom Cruise, but he backed out to do Spanglish.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to seeing Collateral again because it's been a long time.
I really like Collateral, and I think that would be really interesting having Adam Sandler in there.
Yeah,
I'm in. I think I'm in for that.
Adam Sandler and Tom Cruise in the taxi driving around.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, here's another interesting one. The last one. Adam Sandler was considered for Willy Wonka instead of Johnny Depp in 2005.
Would Tim Burton really work with someone who's not Johnny Depp, though?
I don't know. And would Adam Sandler be as convincing in all that makeup and stuff? I don't know.
That'd be weird.
I don't think Adam Sandler ever wears makeup unless it looks like he's got bloody noses and, Kleenex sticking out of his nose.
It's true.
All right, trivia. 5 bits of trivia that you can tell your wife if she doesn't end up listening to this episode, because these will be, good conversation starters either way.
Oh, sure.
So during the scene where Barry Egan is at the supermarket, he's looking for the cheapest healthy choice food. You see in the background an out of focus character in red. And I did not notice that, but that's Lena Leonard, Emily Watson. So why do filmmakers put those kind of things in where they know no one's going to really notice or hardly anyone? Why do they do that?
Well, this movie has a lot of scenes where blues and reds kind of compete for space in the scene. And I think it could be as simple as, she's there. She's that bright red thing that you notice at the end of the hallway, but she's so far away right now that he's more focused on his pudding. It hasn't made an impact in his life. The scene itself is still very cold, very fluorescent, very blue. Or it could be that she was kind of stalking him, because I don't think that the movie is saying that she's a stalker, but I do think that it wants us to think that she's a little bit weird to sell the idea of her liking him. Because
you have to be a little strange to like his character, I think.
Yes. And, she admits that she saw a picture of him and kind of forced his sister to set up an introduction because she wanted to meet him. And so I don't know, maybe I wonder if she was really, really into it, because then she even lied about her car being broken just to come and meet him early. So maybe she's a little bit of a stalker.
I think she is a stalker. Okay, number 2, the 4 blonde brothers who muscle Barry, Adam Sandler's character, are actually brothers in real life. And I know you have brothers.
I have brother, yeah.
You have one brother. Okay, so could you see, like, are you and your brother that tight that you could go and maybe,
assault someone in California?
Give somebody the what for?
I mean, if Philip Seymour Hoffman told me to.
You would do anything.
I mean, there was no per diem, though, and I think I have a problem with that from a business sense. So.
And would it be more fun if John C. Reilly came along?
It would be, for sure.
Adam Sandler is a big New York Mets fan. I did not know that.
Oh, okay.
Good for him,
Nice.
Even better. Number 4, Adam Sandler. He always he always enjoys filming at locations that are near a gym because he likes to play pickup basketball once or twice every day. I saw this on a Sports Center Twitter. Do you do Sports Center Twitter account?
I don't.
Because they have some awesome quirky little strange sports videos. One of them was Adam Sandler playing pickup basketball. Okay, so the last one, you mentioned that this was like sandwiched in between other movies that Adam Sandler did. Well, he must have kind of wanted to try a movie like this because he took a pretty big pay cut. He has been paid $20 million or more in 8 movies in his career. And he was in the middle of it, right? You know, he was in his prime for these $20 million movies, but he only got paid $7 million for Punch Drunk Love. So that's a pretty big pay cut. I mean, $7 million still not bad. You know, I would probably do it for say 5.
Yeah, but the thing is he
5.5.
He could have gotten paid 20 million or more. There's no doubt in my mind to do another comedy, but good for him. You know, he saw Paul Thomas Anderson's stuff. He knew that he's a serious director. He wanted to try something new and branch out. I'm for that, especially when you're Adam Sandler and you know, okay, if this one flops, I can make another one after.
Because all those other ones are going to flop too anyway. So, you know.
Well, I don't know.
Little
does pretty well in the box office.
Little Nicky and Mr. Deeds were his pre and post Punch Drunk Love movies.
Wow.
Maybe we should do a whole series on Adam Sandler. I don't know.
Listen, if we do the early ones, I'm in. I think that he had a golden age for sure.
The Happy Gilmore
and The Wedding Singer is definitely still in there. And I'm serious about Click. Click is not a perfect movie, and it's definitely goofy in some parts, but it's also really surprising and takes some chances. And you know, that says something about his career, I think, that he's willing to do that. All
right. So we're not doing Keep It or Kick It because this is not a Oscar nominated movie, but is this a strong contender for your top 5, which will be revealed in our 2002 finale episode?
100%, Brian.
Is it a candidate for number 1 of 2002?
I will say maybe. I just
say yes or no.
There's just so much about this movie that I love. You know, the lighting, the long takes. I love the sweetness. I love what he does with colors. And like you said before, there's no movie like it. I got a quote from Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com. She wrote, "Anderson's opus is the equivalent of a jubilant Technicolor MGM romantic musical, except without the requisite singing and dancing." And that's how I felt the whole way through. I just felt like this movie was a joy to watch while also being really, really impressive from a technical point of view. And one last thing from that Charlie Rose interview, PTA described the movie as one about, quote, getting in tune and, quote, finding your music. And I think that that's just a perfectly abstract way to describe a perfectly abstract experience of a movie.
Absolutely. This is also a candidate for top 5, definitely for me as well. So we have completed our 2002s, have we not?
I think we did. Yeah. We're wrapping up. The finale is going to be coming up next, huh?
We're going to do a finale. Yeah. So that'll be exciting. We can see for sure how high up. I guarantee you this is in your top 5.
Okay, fine. It's going to be in my top 5. I'll admit it's in my top 5, but I'm not going to tell you where, Brian. I actually don't know where yet. The list is it's very fluid.
I haven't made my list exactly yet. Well, I've been chipping away at it. You know, I won't say
little by little. But we want to hear from you. Send in your thoughts on Punch Drunk Love. Did you love it? Did you hate it? We want to know. You can find us at bestpicturethis.com, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or by telling your smart speaker to play Best Picture This. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at Best Picture This. And for 15 years of Golden Takes, head over to Letterboxd where you'll find me, Mike Cavalieri.
Do you have a favorite movie from the past that doesn't get the attention it deserves, dear listener? If you become a patron of this show, you can check out by going to patreon.com/bestpicturethis. You can help choose a movie for one of our bonus episodes. Doesn't matter what year. Upcoming bonus episodes chosen by patrons are The Fly, 1986, Garden State, 2004, and our third, revealed, I think, for the first time on this episode, Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957.
Mm-hmm. Those are 3 very, 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 very different movies.
Indeed.
That's what I like about it, though. I think that's what makes this whole thing fun. That, you know, we're on a track, Brian. We're on tram lines. We're going 2002. We look at the 5 nominees. We bring in other movies that might be contenders for those top 5 spots. And then we're off to 2003. So this is kind of the opportunity to bring in ones from pre-1999 before our first series, or just, you know, ones from later in the future that are just a little weird, like a goofy comedy like Step Brothers. I would love to do on this show, because that's just something that we wouldn't be able to talk about otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So thank you for listening. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe. And until next time, remember that if you ever get frequent flyer miles and you can travel for free all over the world, you can also listen to this podcast for free while you travel.